couple of pieces of housekeeping before we get to the Arch Manning performance. The Longhorns did get a commitment. We told you this was a big recruiting weekend for Texas with the 2:30 kick and home game. Weather was spectacular. Georgetown running back Jet Walker is staying close to home. I'm not sure if he's in the 5-1-2 out there in Georgetown or if he's a 2-5-4 guy, but depends on where he is. But Georgetown running back Jet Walker, 3-star running back, 6'2", 215, but he's got wheels. He's having a great senior year. He's one of these guys that has really shot up on the radar, and he joins Derek Cooper as the running backs in this 2026 class. 6'2", so got some size to him, 215, but really, really can run. So Longhorns bringing in
how about that?
Jet Walker.
We like that.
Good name, too, for a running back. Jet.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Derek Cooper.
Jet Walker, yeah.
So Longhorns still have as many as 7 or 8 spots for their recruiting class, which is a week from Wednesday when the window opens in the high school ranks. So the Longhorns, I'm sure, as soon as this Aggie game is over, are going to be hitting the streets trying to finish that off with strong. And they had a bunch of guys in. Now, there's a couple of kids from the state of Louisiana that are here this weekend that are LSU commitments that they're trying to flip. But if Lane Kiffin takes that LSU job, most people assume they'll just go to LSU. But if not,
right,
as the offensive lineman, there's a couple guys that are, and with all these coaching changes, you're trying to shake some trees and see if you can flip some guys. That's why Sark was so adamant last week about, and we're here Sark talking about getting ahead of his noise for this team. But let's run through it. Here's Arch Manning, first quarterback in the SEC since Dak Prescott in 2014 to run for a touchdown, throw a touchdown. He had 3 of them, and catch a touchdown pass. Let's hear it. Can we give credit to the Longhorn Radio Network and my guy Craig Way? Here's the call of the Arch highlights. There were plenty of them.
Shotgun Manning. Fakes, looks, pressure coming, then fires deep downfield. He's got DeAndre Moore open. Caught. Touchdown, Texas. What a play by Arch Manning. Second and goal. Arch with the snap, turns, hands it. It's a flip back, and look out here. Livingston to Manning. Caught. Touchdown, Texas. Yes, Arch Manning can catch touchdown passes as well as throw them. Parker Livingston throws the first. 46-yard line. Second down, play action off the snap. Back to throw. Manning looks. Going deep downfield. Wide open Livingston. The catch. 10-5. Touchdown Texas. Take the snap. Has it. A design run. Turns inside to the 2, to the 1. Touchdown Texas. Arch Manning has thrown touchdown passes today. They run option.
All right, so there you go. Arch Manning having the big day with our man Craig Way. Catching, throwing, running. The little Josh Allen special there. You had the Philly special with the roommate to roommate, and Arch had to get up a little bit on that. Parker overthrew it a little bit. Sark said afterwards that it's kind of a baseball thing, a baseball pass for Parker, but he doesn't throw on the run much. No. So they were worried, and he kind of elevated a little bit. Arch went up like his old basketball days and snatched it like a rebound. Texas get that, and then Josh Allen on the Josh Allen special, the quarterback power for a touchdown, and that's all the ways Arch can beat you. And I'll mention this. Since that Wall Street Journal story that called him college football's first flop.
Oh, yeah, remember that?
5-1 for the team. Wins over a pair of top 10 squads, Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, and the loss was to Georgia on the road, and he didn't play poorly in that game. He played, his guys can catch. But 1,600 yards plus, 12 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's completing 65% of his passes. He's got 3 touchdowns as a runner or receiver. And Texas, still has a shot to making that 12-team playoff. Let's hear from Sark on the huge game for Arch and what's led to this. I mean, just keeping his head down and working, settling down and finding his way. Here's quarterback to quarterback. Sark talking about Arch.
Arch was the first player in program history to throw for a touchdown, catch a touchdown, and run for a touchdown. How rare is it to have a player that versatile? And as an offensive play caller, how fun is it to design stuff for a player that versatile?
It was pretty fun. When he caught the touchdown, I turned around and Vince Young was high-fiving me, and he said, man, I wish I would have had that play, when I was going. I said, shoot, I'd call more stuff for you if you were out there. So, you try to play to guys' strengths, and he's obviously a very athletic guy, and we've used his legs plenty this year, and now the confidence in him throwing it down the field and the rapport with the receivers, we've leaned more into that aspect of it, but he gives us a lot of options, and he provides different things. The fact that I'm calling quarterback power from the 5-yard line to score a touchdown is something that we haven't had the luxury of doing here for the past few years. And he's got a lot of attributes that we can tap into, and so the versatility of his is a bonus for us.
All right, so versatility. And really, he is becoming the identity of this offense, who would have thought that in September? He has become the identity. What are we going to do? Well, Arch needs to make a play because the offense, again, they're the worst rushing team in the SEC, and that's going to be the rub against A&M. You'd like to be able to run the ball against the Aggies because that's their one vulnerability, I think, on their defense. Teams can run on the Aggies, but we'll see. That's going to be. We'll hear from Sark today at 11 o'clock with the Game Week news conference and maybe a little tease of what the game plan may be. But I will say this. What did I say last week about all the drop bad passes for Texas? It's starting to remind me a little bit this Texas team, if they don't make the playoff, which is the most likely scenario at this point, even if they beat the Aggies. Remember 2018 LSU with Joe Burrow?
Yeah, I do.
When that team, lost 4 games, but in that game, he threw for 2,500 yards. So through Joe Burrow, his year before his Heisman year at LSU, 2,500 yards, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So far, in 11 games now, Arch is 2,763 yards, 23 touchdowns, and the rushing touchdowns as well. And obviously, Burrow came back. His receivers learned to catch, and they lit up college football. I feel like this is where that offense is trending because whatever we think of the defensive side, where they're going to lose the likes of Michael Taft and possibly Anthony Hill to the NFL and some other guys, most of this offense comes back. DJ Campbell at guard is gone. But if they retain everybody through the portal and add, still have some 5-star receivers that are in the developmental mode that can be a part of it, this could be a dynamic offense. And they're adding, they'll probably hit the portal for a running back potentially to go with, unless they think C.J. Baxter is going to, elevate. But this has a chance. What we're seeing right now has a chance to be, if they work all off season like Vince Young's teams do, or Joe Burrow. Guess what? You can come back and be pretty damn dynamic.
I remember specifically Joe Burrow really turned it on. Like he became Joe Burrow, I believe, in that bowl game they played. They weren't in the playoffs at that point.
He threw 4 touchdowns.
He threw 4 touchdowns against that UCF. Remember, he got hit in the back and kind of that dirty play, and then he just turned it on, and then Joe Burrow was Joe Burrow after that. And then, like you said, the receivers became Jamar Chase. They became Justin Jefferson, the guys that are highly recruited players coming out of Louisiana. Those guys were, but this have some highly recruited players here at the University of Texas. So it could definitely parallel that. Will those guys be that good and dynamic? But you're right. At the quarterback position, you could definitely be seeing that. With a guy we're seeing with so much more confidence, that's not the conversation. I mean, we were having it 2 months ago of, oh my goodness, is Arch, and
got the yips.
He's got the yips,
yeah,
right?
Man,
the Uncle Rico throws are real, but
moved to Matt Caldwell, and now he is the identity of the offense as he
100%.
improves, and that's fun to watch. Now, look, it was Arkansas. They give up a lot of yards to everybody, but I gave you the stats since October, since the Oklahoma game. He's played really well. And here is Sark when asked after the game about style points for the committee. Was there with 52 and Arch doing all the plays and making things happen? Does that help your cause? And Sark was pretty direct about where they're at with 1 game to go.
Right, and you worry about different things going into different games and what are your issues. And I was concerned about Arkansas coming into this game because they played everybody close. Last week was 23-22 LSU. Tennessee's 34-31. They have the ball going in to win the game against Ole Miss and fumble it in the red area. They have the ball, the game's over against Memphis. They fumble that ball. They lose to A&M 45-42. So we knew how dangerous this team was. And what can happen to you is you stare at the record and think, oh, they're 2 and whatever. That's not a 2-8 team, and that team's a hell of a lot better than that. And if they're probably in any of the 3 other Power 4 conferences, they're probably already bowl eligible. But they just happen to play in the SEC, and that's the life we live. So I do think we're playing good football. I do think when you look at our schedule and how competitive and the teams that we've played, it's been a tall task. But in reality, the best way we can impress anybody is going and winning next Friday night.
All right, I'll beat the Aggies. Also, Sark was quick to address and asked again about his adamant statements of last week about he's going nowhere, he's going to be here.
Right.
And he was proud of his team for tuning out that noise, focusing on the win, a culture win. Because we said last week, what does this team got? What did they got? If they haven't had a game like this where there wasn't it's a elimination type of game. They still can get in, but boy, it's a long shot. But they still went out and played a pretty crisp game, especially on the offensive side.
They do a really incredible job of staying focused on the task at hand, and I commend them for that because they come in here every morning and they're prepared. They go to practice every day. They're working extremely hard, and I'm seeing guys getting better and better and better. Some guys are frontline starters right now. Some guys are redshirting. But I see a team that's working and trying to improve and get better, and they're able to focus. And like I said, with my stuff, I did not want to be a distraction, but I felt like it was becoming one. And so I addressed it. And I told the team before I addressed it with y'all that I was going to address it so it wouldn't feel like a distraction to them. And they didn't think, okay, coach, that's just what they do, and that's how they go about their business. And so I think it's a credit to guys who have grown up in our program that are now our leaders that understand, hey, there's always going to be stuff swirling around this place. It just is what it is. We're the University of Texas. This brand, right, this logo means a lot to a lot of people, and it's a very polarizing brand, and people love to talk about us, and that's okay. That's a good thing. But we got to make sure that we keep our focus internal where it needs to be. And again, I commend our players for doing that, and they responded again this week, and they're going to need to do it again this coming week, and they're going to need to do it quickly because we're living on a short week.
All right, so there you go. Friday night, 6:30, Texas and Texas A&M. What more could you ask for into your feast of football? You got the Cowboys and Chiefs.
Good games, yeah.
And you got the high school playoffs. We had somebody who's a Bastrop Bears fan. Man, I get the Cowboys on Thursday, the Longhorns and Aggies on Friday, and then I get the Bastrop Bears playing high school football. And we'll reset that coming up, the teams that are still going. As I've heard from many, I remember Todd Dodge used to tell me all the time, the legendary high school coach at Westlake and South Lake Carroll, said, man, if you have practice on Thanksgiving, you're having a good year.
Yes.
If you have practice the week of Thanksgiving, you got to figure out how to schedule around it. You got to tell your kids.
Good problem to have.
Yeah, you got to tell your kids, hey, man, tell mom and dad we're practicing because we got a playoff game. And that would include Vandergrift, Dripping Springs, Lake Travis, Pflugerville Weiss, the Wimberley Texans, the Bastrop Bears. Good luck to all those teams that are playing into the state's playoffs. That's fun to see. Plus, Longhorns, Aggies. Aggies making a trip to Austin for the first time in 15 years.
Unreal.
Been a minute. Wouldn't the Longhorns like to
give them their first loss this season?
And because it wouldn't derail their season, much like Texas did to them last year, where it kept them out of the SEC championship game, and they finished with a miserable November. This year, you're just going to keep them from being undefeated because they're still tournament bound. They're a lock along with Ohio State and Indiana. But I promise you, as Sark just said, it's a big brand. People like to talk about it. It's polarizing. If Texas wins, there will be a lot of people making a strong argument nationally. We'll make it here, but to beat 3 top 10 teams, no team's done that since 2019. Joe Burrow and LSU. Oklahoma is a tournament team. Vanderbilt is a very close fringe tournament team right now. With a game going to Tennessee,
they could be sitting at 10-2, not making it.
And they play Tennessee on Saturday in a huge game. Texas would be 9-3, and we said since the Florida loss, that might be the one that gets you, but you can still make a case. 3 top 10 wins, 2 losses. Not at home to tournament teams, A&M, or excuse me, to Georgia and to Oklahoma, because Oklahoma, after their win over Missouri on Saturday, they handle LSU, who's limping in with an interim coach. They're going to be 10-2, and they're going to be in. So your losses would be a neutral site to a tournament team, road game to a tournament team, and the number 1 team in the country.
All those tough road environments.
And then the Florida game, but also 3 wins over tournament teams, essentially, right? Vanderbilt's a fringe tournament team. Oklahoma's
top
in.
10 teams at the time.
And A&M's going.
And 2 are actually going to be
I don't know if it's enough to get them in. As we've said, they need some help, but at the same time, that's a strong case.
Sure is.
And that's where the Longhorns sit with them, that Florida game. It's much like Ole Miss last year with Kentucky. It's much like Alabama last year with Oklahoma on the road, because Oklahoma was a 500 team, and Florida sits here as a 3-win team right now. 3 wins. That's what might cost you. And coachless, and they may not get Lane Kiffin. So then what do they do? Because Lane Kiffin is leaning LSU, it sounds like.